وترقص الأضواء كالأقمار في نهر ومقلتاك
Welcome to the program End Terroricide in Palestine. We have an amazing and powerful group of women from across the globe who will speak out today against terroricide, against the ongoing genocide in Gaza, and in favor of a world that respects life in all its forms. My name is Laura Carlson, and it's an honor and a privilege to moderate this event. We have watched with horror the killing of now more than 35,000 people, more than half women and children, with a mounting toll even as we speak amid the offensive against Rafah. Our first speaker is Moira Millán. Moira is Huaychafe Mapuche from Lofpilan, Mawisa, Puelm Willimapu, Patagonia, Argentina. She's a Mapuche land, environment, and indigenous rights defender, writer, author of the novel Tren del Olvido and the book Terroricide, which will be coming out soon in Argentina from Random House and in Great Britain from the Latin American Bureau. Moira, thanks so much for joining us today.
Mari Compulamye, Mari Compuche. Saludos a todas las
Greetings to all participants. Thank you, Laura. Thank you to the team who organized today's session. It's an honor to share this space with all of you, amazing women, warriors, and advocates. Thank you. Unfortunately, we need to challenge the awareness in our world. People are still just observing what's happening in Palestine and the genocide that is taking place. Now, allowing this genocide is not something that is backwards. It is a threat against all humans. And we are allowing this impunity, this genocide. The impunity will become the rule of the political powers in the world. I am a Mapuche woman. I'm an indigenous woman. My people have survived the genocide on behalf of the colonial powers and on behalf of Chile. I am deeply moved by the suffering that the Palestine people is going through. I think that all of us need to fight together for life. What do we need to do? Well, there are powers working together to murder, to assassinate, but we need to overcome this with our love, with kindness, all together. Terroricide is a term that I was able to come up with thanks to the different stories shared by brothers and sisters in Latin America. We have a capitalist neoliberal system that is really stealing out of every one of us. We are all part of the same circle, and we need to protect it. Yesterday, I also shared with other people, and I was sharing that the childhood and that time in your life is essential. This is essential in life. There are thousands and thousands of girls and boys who are being murdered, who are suffering in inhuman ways, and they are missing their childhoods. And that will cause an imbalance, and this will affect all humanity. This won't be something just like that. This is something that we will pay dearly for. And it is actually imperative for us to join our efforts and our forces. And I'm talking from a country where insanity is actually at the helm, where Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, is actually an accomplice of the genocide, but is actually doing propaganda about it. Milei has become a loyal servant of the genocide tactics. We know that these kind of people are embodying everything that is actually not working and embodies all of these inhuman attitudes. This is enabled because of economic interests. Here in Argentina, economic interests are essential for development. And here in the Mapuche people, the government is trying to play their interests. They are actually coming into our territories in the Mapu land. So I always say it. Here, the Mapuches are the Palestine of Latin America because of the interests on our land, because of the resources that we have. There are companies that are also Zionist companies that are involved in First Nations lands and territories. This is the reason why I show my solidarity with the people. And I hope that indigenous peoples worldwide are able to join together. And we need to be categorical in our message and in our advocacy for Palestine. I think it is shameful what Argentine president is doing, and obviously it does not represent the will of the people.
Move our hearts and our consciences, and also for giving us this broader picture. Our next speaker is Abir Al-Boutme. She is the coordinator of Pengon, an alliance of environmental justice organizations in Palestine with Friends of the Earth Palestine. She's also a leading woman activist and has worked closely with affected communities, youth, and local government councils to address environmental problems faced by the Palestinian people with 16 years of experience. She's a researcher on environmental topics, mainly in water and climate change, and a trainer in water and wastewater management and environmental issues. She's also an active member in many local and international social and environmental networks. Abir, thank you so much for joining us in the midst of these troubling times.
Thank you very much. And thank you for organizing this important webinar. I'm talking with you from West Bank, another side of the war against Gaza. First of all, I would like to highlight the current environmental catastrophe and the ecocide that is currently happening inside Gaza Strip. I would like to share some photos regarding the environmental situation in the Gaza Strip. Gaza Strip is facing the cruelest ecocide currently from different environmental elements. When we talk about the just for the rubble, currently we have 37 million tons of rubble in Gaza as a result of the war against Gaza. So this a huge amount of rubble, which is mixed also with with heavy metals, with the spare or the parts of the pumps and the bulldozers. So a huge amount of these rubble, it will have a critical impact on environment, mainly because the most of these amount is pumped to the sea, and the heavy metals also penetrate to the seawater and contaminate the seawater that affects on the marine life. And also as a result of the siege before the current war against Gaza, which lasted 17 years of illegal siege on Gaza that caused a water crisis in Gaza. That's why the Palestinians in Gaza they depend on desalination water plants. So they depend on the seawater in order to desalinate the seawater and use it for drink. And these desalination treatment plants will not consider and will not deal with the heavy metals, with any concentration of heavy metals that will penetrate from the construction waste, or from the rubble waste. So the heavy metals will reach to the human, to the people in Gaza, to the bodies by drinking water from a desalination plant. Another issue, which is the direct impact and current impact, the short-term impact of the war against Gaza, which is caused a silent threat, which is the accumulation of solid waste. Unfortunately, a huge amount of solid waste, mixed solid waste, medical waste with domestic waste are mixed without any classification as a result of the very hard situation in Gaza Strip. So a huge amount of solid waste are located in different areas, and in different areas in all Gaza Strip, mainly in front of the shelters, the refugees shelters, and that cause critical health impact, so as a spread of diseases as a result of the pollution, burning the solid waste without there's no ability to deal with the huge amount of these solid waste, especially because more than 1.9 people in Gaza who forced leaving their houses, and they go to the south in Rafah, and now they repeat their displacement to the middle. So most of the families inside Gaza, they forcibly leave their houses for more than 6 times. And the majority, they left their houses for more than 10 times. Regarding the wastewater flooding in the streets as a result of the Israeli war, 67 of sewage pumps have stopped working since the beginning of the war, and all treatment plants also stopped from operation as a result of also of fuel shortage. So as a damage of the wastewater pipeline, damage of the wastewater treatment plants, and also the sewage pumps. So a huge amount, at least 10,000 cubic meters of sewage of wastewater are being pumped daily into the land and into the Mediterranean Sea. So you can imagine the impact of this amount of wastewater on the people as a short term, as a direct impact, and also at the long term, the penetration of the raw wastewater to the agricultural areas and to the sea, and also to the groundwater. So the contamination of the major groundwater resources, which is also already exhausted as a result of the Israeli siege on Gaza before this war. But this war, actually, it kills all the elements of life inside Gaza, not only people, but all the environmental elements inside Gaza. When we talk about the agricultural impact of the war, Approximately 26.6% of greenhouses suffer significant damage, with Gaza and North Gaza being the worst affected. About 42.6% of all cropland in Gaza was damaged. Also with the Gaza governorate accounting the most damage. And this map, you can see the concentration and the density of the damage on the agricultural land. The red line, you can see how the majority of Gaza Strip intensively damaged by the Israeli attack, but the damage is concentrated in the in Gaza and the northern part of Gaza. And it is worth to mention also the direct impact on the vegetables and fruits that currently people depend on, because there is a very huge restrictions in order to let for the vegetables or fruits or food to enter Gaza. So they depend on what they have inside their agricultural land. And you can imagine that in the northern part, especially when they attacked with illegal weapons, with white phosphorus, with many types of chemicals, you can imagine the concentration of heavy metals on the vegetables and fruits. So people now eat polluted vegetables and fruits by chemicals and heavy metals. When we talk about the emissions, in just the first 2 months of this current war, a huge amount of emissions recorded. A carbon footprint of 20 of the countries with the highest emissions in the world. You can imagine the huge amount of emissions that is happened since the beginning of the war. And the huge amount of chemicals that is produced by this attack. When we talk and when we focus on different environmental elements, when we talk about water, as I mentioned, which is already exhausted before this attack or this war, more than 97% of the water is unfit for drinking use. And currently, since the beginning of the war, the Israeli occupation cut off all the water resources into Gaza Strip, so letting people in Gaza live under water crisis and also starvation. In the average of water consumption in Gaza Strip between 1 to 3 liter per capita per day, only if they found fresh water. The majority of water, they depend on saline water in order to drink or to wash or to take a shower. So the majority of people go to the sea in order to take a shower with polluted water, but there is no choice in front of their life. In addition to deliberately denying the essential elements of human life, such as food, and the which is considered as a collective punishment for the 2 million people, for 2.3 million people. So the number of martyrs in Gaza Strip, it is not only the people who killed by the Israelis, but also the total population of Gaza, which is the 2.3 million people who which Israel did a collective punishment against these people. By cutting off water, cutting off food, cut off energy, targeting also hospitals, targeting ambulances. So this is a direct crime against the people, not only killing people, but also causing and cut off all the elements that is needed to live inside Gaza Strip. Yeah, in addition to the impact on water, on the agricultural land, also before the war, Gaza Strip was depend on the clean energy projects in order to find a clean energy source as a result of the Israeli siege on Gaza. So they depend on solar energy projects to generate electricity, to supply hospitals, to supply institutions, their houses, also to supply farms with electricity and heat. Since the beginning of the war, the majority of the large scale energy projects were targeted by the Israelis, and that caused a critical energy scarcity as a result of damaging these solar energy projects. And as Pengon, which is the Palestinian Environmental NGOs network, we currently do an assessment for the solar energy projects that were partially or completely damaged by the Israeli occupation. So what is happening in Gaza, it is a ecocide, and it's the cruelest ecocide targeting all the elements of life in Gaza, targeting all the environmental elements and killing all the environmental elements inside Gaza. I'm speaking not only on the long-term impact, but also not only on the short-term impact, but also on the long-term impact, which part of it will be irreversible damage. And this will be assessed after the war ends. And we hope the ceasefire now. So the unlawful acts committed with knowledge that there is substantial likelihood of severe and either widespread of long-term damage to the environment being caused by those acts. Ecocide not only protect ecologies, it also protects human groups from the harm inflicted them through ecological destruction and the irreversible damage to life can lead to disastrous human phenomena like mass disease that's currently happening in all the areas in Gaza Strip, especially in the shelters. They live in a very bad hygiene situation. So a lot of diseases spread as a result of also of accumulation of solid waste and spreading of insects and others. In addition to the food insecurity and displacement for people. So all of these is caused environmental crime and also a genocide. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Abir. I think it's very difficult for most of us to even imagine the scope of the destruction in Gaza now. And as you mentioned, both the short-term destruction and the long-term destruction that's going on. It's been very important for us to have you here on the webinar. We now welcome to our panel Maria de Rosario Mina Rojas, the Colombian ambassador to South Africa. She holds a master's in education in diversity from the University of Manizales, Colombia, and has more than 30 years experience nationally and internationally in human rights, collective rights of ethnic peoples, gender justice, and peace. Colombia has joined South Africa in the case against Israel for genocide in the International Court of Justice. Charo, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Para mí es un placer poder estar aquí con ustedes.
Thank you.
Un saludo.
It is a pleasure to be here. Greetings from Pretoria in South Africa. I want to talk about Colombia's participation. Colombia made a statement of intervention before the International Criminal Court. It was made to interpret the social norm regarding the genocide. And this was to complement the case issued by South Africa regarding Palestine. The goal was to materialize into action what was a proposal of solidarity. Even though this is symbolic, this is actually based legally. This was actually reinforced through the president's decision in May that was to break diplomatic relationships with Israel because of the attacks. Colombia still condemns all acts of violence and is also asking for the release of the hostages. Colombia is asking for a ceasefire and also is asking for humanitarian help to be able to access Gaza. This reinforces our support to both states and to the recognition of Palestine. Colombia decided, first of all, wanted to act against this elimination of the Palestine people. Colombia was guided by the social principles, because now we need to act in a radical way in order to prevent a war situation. All countries should actually promote and guarantee in any means possible the respect, and we need to avoid violations. Colombia also showed solidarity with the actions from the International Court of Justice. But there is a more historical and political context here. Right now, the world is actually prioritizing economical development without limits. And now we have a crisis, but this is just the result of a dehumanizing process. And we have also inhumane measurements. They are reducing the value of life, the value of the earth. So there is a nation that is actually fostering slavery methods and also blood-related methods. We cannot ignore the situation that is going on in Palestine. It is really an example that we are losing the battle. This is threatening all forms of existence. So we cannot think of Colombia as a fruitful country without, if we do not condemn what is happening, in this case, in Israel. We are aware of the consequences. Colombia is also helping to stop this environmental catastrophe that is happening in Palestine. The environmental impact on Palestine is a mortal impact on the territoriality of the state. I'm referring to the space in our bodies, the space on the earth. And Israel attacks are leaving very long-term consequences on everyone, including men, women, and children. So to wrap up, the earth on the Palestine is actually showing very serious situations. We cannot look away. And Colombia understands this. South Africa was also able to understand it. Israel's actions must have consequences. We need to stop this extermination. We need to be able to reconcile the peoples and the earth. Today, we need to prevent this current extermination, and we need to fight for a better future. Thank you so much.
Colombia has, without a doubt, been a leader not only in Latin America, but in the world on this, and it's important that governments act as well. We'll move to the next speaker. Vandana Shiva is a world-renowned ecofeminist activist in defense of biodiversity and native seeds based in New Delhi. She holds a PhD in physical sciences and has published more than 20 books. For 5 decades, she has dedicated her life to the defense of biodiversity and the well-being of all species. She's the founder of the Navdanya Project to promote organic agriculture and defend the rights of peasant communities around the world. Due to the time difference, Vandana sent us this message from India.
Fellow citizens across the world, wherever you are, we are all entangled in this violence that is becoming the norm. In tiny 141 square miles of Gaza, all of the historical concentration of apartheid and war is decimating an entire society, an entire culture. Partly because this rule of the militaristic mind is governing the world. I have called it ecological apartheid, the illusion of separation, the illusion of superiority. Superiority over other beings, superiority over the earth, superiority over other cultures. And it is assumed that decimating the earth, the terracide, decimating diversity, the genocide, violating the laws of life, ecocide, is a right. That sickness is what we are rising against. I join my sisters who are saying we must end this violence. We join together as diverse women for diversity to write the manifesto on making peace with the earth. For every one of us, making peace with the earth and our common humanity is an obligation. And I joined this initiative with love, with compassion, with solidarity, and with courage. My love to all of you.
As always, powerful and eloquent words from Vandana Shiva. Our last speaker is Jody Williams, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, co-founder and chair of the Nobel Women's Initiative that works with women Nobel Peace Prize laureates to elevate the voices and support the work of women peace activists around the world. She received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1997, along with the International Campaign to Ban Landmines, and is a lifelong advocate of freedom, self-determination, and human and civil rights, and a peace activist. Jody, thank you so much for being here.
It's been a pleasure to hear everybody's contribution to this discussion. It just underscores for me the horrors of this genocide that we are witnessing in Gaza. It underscores in dramatic ways also the destruction of the environment, pollution, all of the things that we have heard about already. It is hard for me, and I'm sure for all of us, to understand that kind of hatred. We were hearing about from the Colombian ambassador the support of the effort of South Africa to hold accountable Israel for its actions in the ICC. No, I'm sorry, the International Court of Justice. I was also reading today articles about the prosecutor at the ICC calling out for warrants against Netanyahu and his Minister of Defense, Sinwar, I think that's how you say his name, and the other two from Hamas. And I believe it is imperative that those happen. Unless they happen, unless those men are held accountable, impunity will just continue to run rampant around the world. Wars happen because men can get away with it. Wars happen because they have the weapons. Wars happen in the lust for power and the lack of concern about the humanity of the other. And of course, the earth, you know, if we have to destroy the earth to win the war, so be it. I'm, of course, thinking of Mr. Putin and his invasion of Ukraine and the deaths there and the destruction of that environment. I'm thinking of countries in Africa, Sudan, the DRC, on. And it's impunity must be stopped. It can only be stopped if we can make the laws of war viable in today's world, international law. If we continue down this path, I just wonder how many more Gazas will we see? How many more people who are inconvenient in the eyes of a state power will die? Will genocide become the commonplace way of, dealing with, not having to deal with future threat and war? I applaud all of the states that have supported South Africa in the ICJ. I personally applaud the prosecutor for seeking justice in the genocide. I just keep thinking over and over, as I obsessively watch videos and read every article about Gaza, that it's mind-boggling to me that we are actually in real time watching a genocide unfold. And people want to pretend it isn't happening and want to pretend that if you criticize the actions of the state of Israel, you're anti-Semite. I'm not, but I will, criticize the actions of Israel, Netanyahu, the Minister of Defense, and all of them who are creating death, destruction, and hatred in this world. We need more voices for compassion, understanding, and peace, which won't happen as long as impunity continues, as long as men have their weapons and keep on creating more. I know personally that I will do everything I can for disarmament beyond landmines. And I look forward to visiting the West Bank in, I think, September of this year. Nobel Women's Initiative did a delegation before to the West Bank. Unfortunately, of course, we weren't allowed in Gaza. But we stand strong with all the sisters here, with every person on this planet who understands what is happening in Palestine and to Palestinians. And it is genocide. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. We've heard from powerful women and powerful words. Now we want to take a look at what we can all do together to stop this. We're going to go back to Moira Millán. She's one of the main organizers of this event. Moira.
Gracias, Laura. Gracias a todas y cada una de las hermanas presentes.
Thank you, Laura.
And thank you, everybody in here. There's a purpose, and it's not only hearing voices against genocide, ecocide, terroricide, but to commit to a global action. And I would like to reach every heart of every woman in the world. We cannot live. We cannot allow this genocide to be perpetrated. We have demonstrated it in every March 8th. Earth has waken up, and we have a commitment with future generations. I believe in my sisters who are hearing us everywhere in the world, that we have power to end this war. And I'll ask you that we can reach an agreement for a global mobilization day for all women across the world to say, stop Gaza genocide. I think we can achieve this. And I request all partners in our world to make a call, a global call to all women in the world for peace and against genocide in Gaza. That will be all. Thank you.
This call to action brings us to the end of our program today. Based on these ways of nonviolent, inclusive resistance that the speakers have discussed, and the final words of Moira Millán, we ask everyone, wherever you are, to stand up, to speak out. You are not alone. We have a task ahead of us to organize a global day of action by women that will put a stop to the destruction taking place in Gaza today. There's a growing movement worldwide to stop the killing. It's time to bring us all together. We send you courage and hope in the vision of a world without attacks on the planet or the peoples, a world without terroricide. Thank you all for joining us.